It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas everywhere you go. Take a look in the 5 and 10,
glistening once again,
with candy canes and silver lanes aglow. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt. I work for Pearson over at the Financial Times, and I thought I wanted to talk to you about strategic thinking because it's a really important aspect of how we work as Agile practitioners, but it's tend to be forgotten. What I really would like to do is to kind of equip you with some good techniques and ways of thinking about how you think, so that you will be better equipped. I don't think I'll really be able to do that in 10 minutes, so hopefully at least I can inspire you to go and look up this further and perhaps learn a bit more after. So why is strategic thinking important for an Agile practitioner? Many answers to that question. I think this could be one of the most important one. Since knowledge organizations, companies don't look like this anymore. Perhaps companies did once, that strategy was something you were concerned with on the top, and you'd only really need good strategic thinking if you were involved in defining strategies. Then those strategies would be kind of cascading into tactics, objectives, and the people at the very bottom, they could throw away their heads with their brains because they didn't really need to think at all. That's not how it works as Agile practitioners. We work in these organizations that are probably looking more like networks, where you have thinking people in every position, and everyone, probably there's still that high level strategy, but you got your own goals that you need to solve, and you all need strategic thinking to meet those. So two things why you need strategic thinking. One, that all those strategies that get communicated around, that top level corporate or competitive strategy that's guiding the whole company, you need to understand it and understand how you fit in. Good strategic thinking on your part will allow you to do that. The other thing is you will have goals and objectives that you want to reach, and just being able to think strategically, because that's what strategic thinking is about. How do I reach my goals? So practicing strategic thinking will allow you to do that, because we not expect you to be given objectives, told what to do. We expect you all to think. So that's why. And now you're thinking I'm making you cry. It's, you're Agile practitioners here. You're used to responding to change, not following a plan, and that's how a lot of people respond when they hear about strategy, because strategy for them, a strategy is a plan. It's something that comes down. You follow this because it comes with forecasting and budgeting and resource allocation, but it's not. That is not strategy, as we will see. And you might also say that, in Agile we're focusing on individuals and interaction. We focus a lot about building cultures, and culture eats strategy for breakfast. That old Peter Drucker quote a lot of you have heard. What he meant when he said that is that you can't have a strategy which explains how to get to your goal if your culture isn't supported, because then it's going to go wrong. You can't have the strategy without having a culture. So in this case, as we will see with strategic thinking throughout the entire company, actually being lean, being agile, reinforces and supports that, the culture and strategic thinking, they reinforce each other. Finally, the reason why I put the onions on here really is that because I don't know if you've seen Roman Pichler's kind of onion model of the outer layer is the vision. That's where you start. That holds within there sits the strategy, which defines how you will get to the goals, how you will realize that vision, and within that strategy sits your tactics, your execution, and the operational approach. And I think that is a good, if you want to make it really simple, it is a good division. That strategy sits in between. It guides you, how do you deploy your tactics so that you get to the goals that laid out in the vision. Before going into giving you some actual techniques and perhaps more tangible ways of thinking about strategic thinking, let's just focus a bit more on what a strategy is. So if I'm saying that strategic thinking, yes, 5 minutes. If strategic thinking is what will help you define strategy and help you understand strategy, help you collaborate and use strategy throughout the organization, then the strategy is, first of all, we still start with the why. If you've seen Simon Sinek's the golden circle and start with the why, that's still relevant. You've got to have a goal. Think of it as strategic games are very common. If you play a game, usually you have a strategy to win the game. A game without a goal is not a game. A game without a goal is a toy, and you rarely hear about someone talking about strategic ways to play with a toy. It doesn't fit in. Strategy is there to tell you how to achieve a goal. If you want to start, if you find it, because I won't have time to explain it in 30 seconds now, if you want to start just figuring out for yourself what is actually the difference between tactics and strategy and what it means to follow a strategy. You play this game, 2048. Some of you played it already, I'm sure. You know that if you just deploy tactics, just trying to match up the tiles to build bigger and bigger number, you just get up until the 128 tile a bit more, and then it all falls apart because you're just moving randomly these tiles about. If you follow and you could define a strategy for how to play this game. So it's very simple. Pick a corner, which is the gravity, keep your biggest tile in that corner, and then all the time just swipe left down to get things into that corner. Keep that as your guiding policy, and you will do 10 times better right away just by having a strategic approach to the game rather than the random deployment of tactics. And that's how you should think about strategy if you want to make it really, really simple. It's one way to get to the goal, which really focuses. You can just disregard all the other ways of doing it. So that might seem like good tactics, but it doesn't follow the strategy. It doesn't really get you where you want to in a controlled way. So how do you actually become better at strategic thinking, or how do you improve strategic thinking, or just start thinking about strategic thinking? Well, there is this Professor Lidka. She wrote an article in 1998 where she tries to unravel this and come up with some actually kind of formalized strategic thinking. And I find that really, really useful, really kind of insightful, and make me think about this. There's nothing new revolutionary here. You already do this. I mean, all of you think strategically. It's just, I think, actually knowing that you think strategically and how you think strategically would make you even better at what you do. So she talks about building a repertoire. It's the same as, creating your Agile tool set or your playbook, but she calls it a repertoire, which I like. It's a repertoire of ways of thinking. So the 5 competences of strategic thinking, according to her. First one, systems thinking. Start with understanding system thinking. Like, how does all the moving parts that you need to perhaps change to get to the goal, how do they all interact? How will your intervention change the system around? And a technique you could try there if you want to improve systems thinking could be just a lot of these canvases that are around, a business model canvas where you map out if it's a business process you're designing, value stream mapping, understand better how activities feed into each other, and start thinking about your problem spaces as different type of systems. Thinking in time, being able to move between the past, how we got to where we are, where we want to get to, and move back and forth in time, and how that system that you now understand, how that changes in time. That's a really valuable exercise. They say that the future the future is a function of the past. There is no future that's just going to come up from nowhere. It's always comes from actions in the past. Techniques there is analogies as case scenarios, case studies like the one we just heard, something that happened over a period of time. You can relate to it, see how it applies to you. A lot of analogies, a lot of case studies, a good way of communicating thinking in time. Moving on, this one I can skip through because you're all expert in this. All right. This is hypothesis driven. That feeds straight into strategic thinking, but you all know this because you're all lean. Intelligent opportunity, always keeping out when should you change strategy. You're focused in what you do, but you're ready to change. And finally, the intent focus. So keeping focus on where you're going. Think about it as a direction, what you want to discover, and what your destiny at the end looks like. Apply all these competences when you think about how to get to a goal, and you will be strategic thinkers. I wish I would have been able to give more tangible examples and experience. I can't do that in 10 minutes. Happy to, but hopefully you see where I'm going with this. You see how it fits into a lot of things you're already doing as Agile practitioners, and I hope it was inspires some of you to go up and read a bit more about it. Thank you.
That you sing right within your